What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Welcome back. Hope you've been enjoying the videos. I've been putting out a whole bunch lately, as well as feeding some updates on breaking news whenever it happens. I'm going to continue doing that, by the way. I just want to continue on the trend of what's going on. And right now, obviously, we're in the midst of a very, very slow free agent process. And things are just, frustrating for a lot of fans, and I'm sure players and teams and whatever else. But I think in my opinion, the major sticking point is, there hasn't been a resolution yet as to what 2021 is going to look like. So, teams really don't know how to plan or budget accordingly and so on and so forth. Because keep in mind, when it comes out to revenues and things like that, obviously, Major League lost billions last year. But, if there are no fans, and I think, though, to some capacity, there'll be fans next year, or maybe gradually more as vaccines become available. And they may even require you to confirm or prove that you got a vaccination before you buy a ticket. Who knows what's going to happen for next year to try to kind of safely phase things back back to normal, and hopefully in 2022. But keep in mind, if there are no fans, there are obviously no ticket sales, but there are also no concessions. There's no parking. That is a bloodbath for teams. An absolute bloodbath. So, I get why the free agent market is really, really slow. And, guys for the most part are not going to get paid the way they would normally get paid because of the uncertain economic times and just, the bloodbath 2020's been. And personally, I think 2021 should be a bridge year back to 2022. As much as the Players Union wants a 162 game season, I personally I'm of the opinion it should be maybe a bridge, maybe halfway between 60 and 162, so 110, 120 games, with gradually more fans throughout the months or whatever. For a number of reasons. One, to gradually to make sure that everything is safe, but also to protect pitchers' arms, specifically pitchers, the starting pitchers, because generally, if you see how prospects develop, and a lot of minor league farm systems and major league teams say this is. Generally, you don't want to add more than 40 to 50 innings per year when you're developing a pitcher. Well, the top 8 starters last year, most starters threw maybe, 60, 70 innings, maybe. Imagine going from 70 back to 180 to 200. To me, that's a recipe for blowing out your arm. So, I think it's, it should be a bridge here, obviously, and just for safety purposes and to preserve pitchers, or there should be 6-man rotation next year, as teams should be, try their best to get a 6-man rotation if there's going to be more games than that. So all those things, obviously, are going to be worked out with when they meet in the union and the players and the owners and whoever else, the commissioner. But to me, the big action is going to be in trades, and I still think it's going to be more significant until things start to pick up on the free agent front. So today I want to go over the 7 most likely players to be traded for the remainder of the season, for the remainder of the offseason until the season starts. 7 Major League Baseball players most likely to be traded. So, and as a desire, as if need, fit, and so on. Number 1 is Joe Musgrove, one of the starting pitchers for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He's probably their number 1 starter there. Now, he's not going to be number 1 on a lot on every team, not like a Cole or Verlander or a DeGrom or Blake Snell would be, but he'll be a solid number 2 on a lot of teams, maybe a 3 on some teams, but he'll be number 1 on a few teams. But he's still an innings-eating pitcher. He's a consistent pitcher, and he'd be a good fit, in my opinion, at either Tampa Bay, particularly since they're down Snell and Morton. He'd be a good candidate to be traded. Now that Tampa Bay has the clear number 1 farm system in baseball, they could easily make a trade for Musgrove. They can make a trade for Luis Castillo, too. They can make a trade for Corbin Burns. A lot of starters. They have the prospect capital to do it. And, in my opinion, that and all these guys are controllable, so they could bring in 1 or 2 of them and not really have any disruption in their payroll. So, and they're still looking to move Kevin Kiermaier, so there may be some more shedding of payroll at some point as well if they find a taker for him. I see the New York Mets as a fit too. They need another starter, even though Noah Syndergaard's coming back from Tommy John. You don't really know what to expect, and the last thing you want to do is rush him back from Tommy John. And I mean, they had what's the other guy? Stroman. They got some other guys as well, but I think he'd be a good fit there too. They need another reliable starter. As well, they need other pieces too, but and Cohen's they're having a nice little offseason, a productive offseason, so I can easily see them making a move like this. And the third fit, to me, in my opinion, is the New York Yankees. To me, he serves the biggest need for the Yankees of all these three teams. Yankees need a number 2 behind Garrett Cole, period. End of story. And I've mentioned other guys, Marco Gonzales and some other guys, but this guy would probably be the most affordable and the easiest one to get. And he's not a free agent until 2023, so he does have 2 more years of team control. And at the very least, the Yankees need to bring in an affordable pitcher. And unless they're moving Giancarlo Stanton, which is very unlikely, and clearing up more payroll, they only really have like $35 million to play with to stay under the luxury tax threshold. Now, if they don't re-sign DJ Lemahieu, they could reallocate the resources elsewhere. But who knows what they're going to do, or make a trade if they don't re-sign LeMahieu, or move Torres to second, sign a stopgap shortstop until next year. Who knows what they would do? But pitching is definitely a top need for the Yankees, and they need at least one. I think 2 starters, and maybe 1 or 2 relievers as well. That's my opinion. And they have other needs too. If you want, I just did a video on 4 moves that the Yankees should do while they were kind of trying to renegotiate and re-sign DJ LeMahieu. That's in the description down below, so take a look at that if you haven't seen it yet. So those are the 3 fits of Joe Musgrove. The number 2, Nolan Arenado. He's a more obvious candidate. He's made it clear that he wants out of Colorado, but he does have a pretty onerous contract. It's a $200+ million contract. I think he's got 7 years left on it. So any team that is going to eat that whole contract is obviously not going to give up as much of a prospect package in return. So this would mean more of a salary dump. Now, if a team's willing to eat, if Colorado's willing to eat 30 or 40 million of the contract, the prospect package would be a little bit more robust. That's just common sense. But he's another prime candidate, and I see him as a really good candidate for the Los Angeles Dodgers, a trade candidate to replace Justin Turner. He is the best third baseman in baseball, Nolan Arenado. He's also 5 years or 6 years younger than Turner as well. So, they'd have him locked up there, and they can keep Seager at shortstop if they wanted to, if they don't re-sign him next year, since he's a free agent. So they have options, but I think he is a fit in the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I think he's also a fit for the Texas Rangers. They have a new stadium, and they weren't even able to play in front of their own fans last year, which stinks. So in the new stadium, and I think in order for them to be competitive in the West, specifically, to try to overtake the A's and the Astros and probably the Angels, who might be ahead of them too, they're going to need to make a couple of significant moves and really boost that offense. I know they traded Lance Lynn away. They got some prospect capital before him, but they need to make a few moves if they want to be competitive in the West, and especially in the new stadium. So those are the 2 fits for Nolan Arenado. My number 3 guy is Josh Hader. People talk about him every year. He's been traded, in mock trades like 10 times already, or 20 times, and I'm actually surprised that, was it a year ago or 2 years ago, that the Yankees turned down a trade of Miguel Andujar for Josh Hader. They might be kicking themselves in the butt right now for that one. But, again, I think he's a big fit in Los Angeles for the Dodgers. I think he'd be a really good fit there because they need another power arm. Kenley Jansen's on the sharp decline. They have the prospect capital to bring him in. He would make that bullpen even better than it already is. Super duper elite. And again, he's a guy that can go multiple innings too. So he can be long relief, he can be short relief. Dominant from the lefty side, and he'd be a perfect fit for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And he'd also be a perfect fit for Tampa Bay. And again, Tampa Bay with that prospect capital, I would be on the phone with the GM from Milwaukee saying, hey man, we want Josh Hader. We want Corbin Burns. We want both of them. What do you want? They have enough prospect capital to get whoever they want. Okay, right now at this point. So he'd be a perfect fit. And again, he would complement that already dominant, mostly right-handed bullpen there and help ease the load off of whatever new starting pitching rotation they're going to have. So Tampa Bay and Los Angeles for Josh Hader. Number 4, Francisco Lindor. He's being talked about a lot, obviously, as well. He serves, he's a switch hitter. He's a good contact hitter. He's only 27. I think he just turned 27, so he's got a lot of years of baseball ahead of him. An elite defender, an all-around top 5 player in Major League Baseball, in my opinion. He's also fit in Los Angeles Dodgers, who isn't, And again, they could sign him, move Seager over to third, and then have an uber young infield. There's so many options that the Dodgers can do, and he'd be a perfect fit there. He'd also be a perfect fit in the New York Yankees. And I have a feeling that Cashman's got a couple of feet in a couple different fires and working on some things and stuff like that in case DJ LeMahieu doesn't pan out. I hope at some point he's just like, look, this is the offer. You either take it or you can keep relooking or go elsewhere. We need to solidify the rest of this team for next year. We can't wait on you for everybody else. At some point I think they need to make that call, and I hope that they do. And if they don't re-sign him, then I hope Lindor is an option, because then they can move Torres over to second and then put Lindor at shortstop. So, and which would be an ideal, and he would make the infield defense that much better. He'd make the lineup that much better, less reliant on the home run. He'd give him some lefty balance too, and some much needed youth. So he serves a lot of purposes, specifically on the Yankees. Number 5, actually, I had Darvish, but he just got traded to the Padres in their second blockbuster in 24 hours. So he's going to be part of a super rotation there, and they're definitely going for it. And so kudos to them, and congratulations to Darvish. I think he's going to do great things over there with Blake Snell, and then eventually Mike Clevenger and the rest of that young rotation. So good for them. Number 6, a Padres player, actually, Will Myers. He's only 30 years old, but it seems like he's been playing for like 15 years. It's crazy. And he's moved around a couple teams, and he kind of like fell off a little bit, but he's regained his stroke, he's regained his kind of mojo and stuff like that. And he's not a free agent until Hader's not a free agent until 2024, and he's also not a free agent until 2024. So he's got 3 years of team control. The contract is a little bit higher on the back end, but this could be a salary dump too for the Padres to send him over to a team who needs offense, like Texas. Again, can you imagine if Texas brought in Myers or Arenado or both of them? The outlook of their team would be completely different. Cleveland Indians also need an outfield bat and an infield bat too. So he's a guy that can play outfield and infield. So, and again, their first baseman was Carl Santana, just signed with the Royals, so they have a need at first base. He'd be a good fit there, or an outfield, or both, multiple position player. And even if the Padres are willing to eat a little bit of the contract to move that contract, since they're taking on so much more salary right now, they'll get a little bit of a better prospect in return. And I think he's a good fit in either team, Texas or Cleveland. They both need offense. So, particularly since they traded away a lot of guys, or they're looking to, or at least Cleveland's looking to cut salary. So, those are the 2 teams for Will Myers. And last but not least, Danny Duffy. He's been with the Kansas City Royals for a bunch of years now. He's only a free agent. He's a free agent after this coming year. So in 2022, he's up. So this guy would be for a team who needs another pitcher, add some more depth, or somebody who they think this might be the guy to help get us into the playoffs. I don't think he's a uber difference maker, because he hasn't proven to be one, but he could still make him. He can go to a team like Houston Astros. And they'll make them better. They have a tendency, like Tampa Bay, to make the pitchers that go there better. So, and you add him to Greinke, and they're down Verlander, and they have Urquidy, so they need another pitcher there, and I think he'd be a good low-key fit there, especially from the lefty side. Give him some lefty balance. And as well as the Los Angeles Angels, they need pitching as well. They have Bundy, but they don't have much. They need to bring in at least 1 or 2 starting pitchers, and I think they will. And I think Danny Duffy's a good candidate for the Los Angeles Angels. They give him some depth and some rotation protection. I also think they need to bring in a reliever or 2 also. So I'd be on the lookout for them to do some just kind of incremental spending. I know they brought in Iglesias already, and they made a couple of moves, so good for them. But Artie Moreno has shown a willingness to spend, particularly since Albert Pujols' contract is coming off the books after 2021. So in this case, it would be Duffy and Pujols, which would probably clear up $40 million off their payroll, which would put them in a position to, to spend, maybe get one of those big shortstops next year. So they could do some things. And if you add one of those shortstops, the Trout and Ohtani and like Rendon and the rest of these guys, That's a murderer's row type offense right there. So these are the 7 players that I think are most likely to be traded this offseason. Let me know what you think. Give me your feedback in the comments down below. My next video is going to be 5 major league players who should be traded but probably won't be. So, and the list is a little different. So there may be a mainstay or 2 on there, but there's some different guys on that list. So be on the lookout for that. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. Please hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for your support, everybody. And be safe and look out for each other. And look out for a new backdrop. I have a backdrop coming soon. I'm just waiting for it. And so be safe, and I'll talk to you next time.